Hi ho, everybody. I'm your host, Fido Kennington. Welcome to a very special episode of Hey Man, Nice Kiss Shirt. My guest today needs no introduction to most of you. Let me just turn it over to Mr. Jim Neff.
Well, I know it's a great pleasure to be with you because you're located in Flint, and of course, I grew up in Flint, Michigan, and I have a long history of fun concerts in Flint. As I grew up, the first concert I ever attended in Flint was at the old Flint IMA, and the headliners were Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Buddy Holly, and that was the Alan Freed Big Beat. And when you're my age, there's a little bit of an advantage in that we got to see rock and roll start from its very beginning all the way up through now. So we've seen everything from rockabilly all the way through Motown and up and through grunge and hair bands, and it just keeps continuing. So I've been very fortunate to last this long because I've gotten to see the whole thing. And other places that were back in the day really cool with Flint, of course, Sherwood Forest, and we saw Alice Cooper there when Alice Cooper was the name of the band and not the guy. Uh, I remember a concert at the Flint IMA with Terry and the Pack, the Strangeloves, Beau Brummels, and the Yardbirds. Of course, the Who at Atwood Stadium. So Flint has a long history, and one thing that people don't remember maybe is that Mount Holly back in the 60s and 70s was a hotbed of rock and roll, and a lot of great stars played there.
Absolutely. I love that you started with the Chuck Berry show because I'd had heard you reference that in another interview, and I was actually going to ask that question. But you did indeed see that at the IMA here in town, and so uh, uh, you had also mentioned sort of the feeling that visitors to the gym in Cadillac get, that they're really in a place of rock history. Now, had you in the years since then, had you been to Clear Lake, to
Yes,
that?
after seeing that first concert, and I became a big Buddy Holly fan. I still am. And we were on our way west to visit our daughter, who at the time was living in Washington State. And we were driving, and we stopped in Clear Lake, Iowa, and that's where uh, the Surf Ballroom is located. And it was the last place Buddy Holly played before he took that fateful plane ride with the Big Bopper and Richie Valens. And so I went in and I stood in the middle of the Clear Lake Ballroom. And Clear Lake is a place, if you look at all the pictures on the walls, just about everyone of every genre has played there. It's an amazing experience just to see the pictures of everyone who has played in that venue. And it looks exactly the same as it did back in 1950s. So I stood there and, I choke up when I tell the story because a tear almost comes to your eye because you could stand in the Clear Lake Ballroom and actually feel rock and roll. I mean, it was facing that stage. You could imagine Buddy Holly and Richie Valens and everybody else playing up there. And that's what I tell people when they come to Cadillac. Kiss has played all over the world, and you've attended a lot of concerts, I'm sure, at Pine Knob and the Palace of Auburn Hills and Comerica Park and every place in Michigan. And but there's only one place where everyone says, if I had one concert I could have attended, what would it have been? And Cadillac, Michigan is at the top of that list. And I tell people who visit, you know, face the stage where the stage was and close your eyes. And this is one of the two places on earth that I know of where you can feel rock and roll.
Absolutely. I've 10 years ago, I did just that. I well, just to give my a little of my own background, I didn't see Kiss until 1979, and my stepdad. We went as a family, and we went to the Pontiac Silverdome, and that was my stepdad. My my real dad lives in Cadillac, has for about 20 years, and I was able to convince him to come with me to the 40th 10 years ago. My parents were young, and he and my mom were pretty much responsible for making me a rock and roll kid. And that was the first opportunity uh, that he had to see me with my tribe. I'm such a Kiss nerd. Um, I I love seeing some of those pics. My favorite pics from Cadillac 75 are with the youngest kids that would be about my age. I'm 54. So uh, it was really, and I'm getting choked up just thinking about being able to relate it to my dad, to Dave, and telling him, this is the first time you've really been able to see me in my element with my people, and uh, you'll never probably get to see Kiss. This was obviously in 2015 before they retired from touring, but that was seeing Mr. Speed in that gymnasium. Um, you really do feel it. It was pretty amazing. So I mean, thanks for all that you've done as an ambassador of Kiss, of Cadillac. Want to circle back to how did it come to pass that Double Yellow Line uh, opened that Kiss show in Cadillac? I know it's your brother Dave's band. How Tell me a little bit about Double Yellow Line and how that started, and your involvement with your
Well,
brother.
in the basement of everyone's house, they have a band, and uh, my dad and mom were very gracious, and they let us practice in the basement. And my dad got very adept at watching television with no sound, and so it was really loud in our basement. And what happened for Double Yellow Line was the original Double Yellow Line, which formed, which David was 12 years old. He was the drummer, and two other guys played guitar, and we had a succession of bass players. We could never nail down a bass player. And I actually was the original lead singer for the Double Yellow Line. And we played a lot of Rolling Stones stuff. Um, and I remember our opening song was Midnight Hour by Hank Mallard, the Midnighters, not the other
Not the Wilson
version.
Pickett version.
No, so there was a little more upbeat, and that was a great fun time for me. The summer of '67, we got to play Sherwood Forest and a lot of places around Flint, and we weren't great, but we were really loud. Um, and oddly enough, the WL line, when I proposed the um, idea to Kiss management, Bill O'Coin, I said, one of the steps was if my brother brought up the equipment from his band, would Kiss play a couple of songs at the pep assembly? And he said they really didn't like to do that, but the next day he came back with, why don't we bring the whole show? Well, because of the double yellow line connection that I had, we need some kind of opening band and a little bit of nepotism here. I brought the my brother's band up to open that show. Now David now lives in Las Vegas, and he's planning a move back to Flint probably at the first of the year. Um, Dennis Neese just emailed me yesterday and said that he's still performing, and he and his wife are going to come up this coming weekend to experience some of the things. Although they're booked for the weekend of the celebration to perform somewhere, they're going to come up and get a look at it. And he still lives in the Flint area, and John, John Cook, who was the keyboard player. He's a photographer in Frankenmuth, and he's contacted me too, and he may be up for the 50th celebration. So we've got that connection with the double yellow line. It's still going, and it's nice to know that those three guys are still in communication, and they remember
Yeah,
performing in '75 and want to be a little bit part of the 50th.
yeah. So Dennis is still he's still performing around the Flint area.
As I understand, he and his wife have a duo, and they do Dennis and Friends, and so yeah. And oddly enough, Dennis said, the weekend of our celebration, he's got an opportunity to visit their daughter in England, and
Oh, wow.
he's got an appointment at Abbey Road to see
Wow.
that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to hearing his, uh, his experiences there, and let me know how that all went.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's a shame I won't be able to shake his hand in Cadillac for the festivities, but if there's ever been a valid excuse not to be in Cadillac coming up, that's certainly one. That's pretty amazing. I've been playing, I guess, uh, this, yeah, 2025 marks my 40th year, uh, making money for playing music around these parts, and it'd be interesting. I wonder if he and I have ever crossed paths without realizing who each other. I wasn't even aware of Double Yellow Line until I read Ken Sharp's book, Nothing to Lose, and I'm not exactly sure how I. Maybe it was a gentleman. Do you know a guy named Ben Hamper?
Yes,
Did you go to
know the
St.
name.
Mike?
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure he went to St. Mike's, but it might have been he that told me that you were from Flint. But yeah, I love that small world aspect of it. I'm obviously pretty proud to be from here. We've got obviously Michigan has an extremely rich musical history, and yeah, I'm always on the lookout for uh, people. Matter of fact, there's a good friend of mine, Bruce Winch. I was in a band called Smack Dab, and they
Yep,
opened. They played Heartland.
yeah, Dave was the drummer of that.
Really
Yes.
nice, nice. They had a few drummers. There was another John Clark was another drummer,
Mhm.
and he is actually uh, he's my what is he? I guess my cousin-in-law's dad, and
Okay.
we'd hung out at some family functions a couple times. He kind of goes back and forth between Arizona and here, and I didn't know until I guess maybe 2 years ago that he was in Smack Dab, and he had. I mean, I think I must have just been wearing a Kiss shirt, and oh yeah, I opened for those guys once, just
Yeah.
sort of offhandedly, and I'm like, my jaw dropped, but yeah, these are the kind of stories that my viewers of Hey Man, Nice Kiss Shirt are really into, and I really appreciate you indulging, kind of going a little bit off topic.
Bruce is one of the people who did time in the Neff basement. And, that includes all kinds of people that went through there. Barry Bass was a great,
Oh,
a great keyboardist. Craig Frost from, wound up with Silver Bullet. He was in our basement at various times. So it was kind of fun over there on, at the corner of DuPont and Genesee Street in north end of Flint, a few blocks
wow.
from the old Flint Northern. And, it was really loud and a lot of fun during those days.
That's great. I look forward to having Bruce on the pod one of these days. As you know, he ran Flint Guitar right up the street from where I am. He and his dad were there for years, and the stories over the years that he was always really proud of the brownie camera photos that he took of Hendrix when Hendrix came to the IMA, and Bruce and his dad both, they no end of stories from those guys. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to getting some more background on Smack Dab from him one of these days.
Now,
But
it's very interesting too. I think one of the things for the 50th that people will want to do is to visit our Wexford Historical Society Museum that's located right at the north end of downtown Cadillac. And there's all kinds of memorabilia, and you'll be interested in one that's kind of a connection between uh, the Flint area, the Flint Saginaw Bay City area, and Kiss and Cadillac. And they had this small picture hanging on the wall of a band who performed in Cadillac back in the 60s that played at a place called the Platters, which was a roller rink that brought in acts. Sometimes they were just lip sync acts, and sometimes they were actual bands. And this band was a band called the Bossmen. And the
Ah,
Bossman, of course, was Dick Wagner and was the leader. And here this thing hung on the wall. And I told people, you don't understand the connection that you have with Flint and Kiss. And I said, first of all, the Flint connection. The Bossmen played those places like the Riviera Terrace and Daniel's Den and places around Flint back in the day. And of course, Dick Wagner was the lead guitarist. And I remember they played a Battle of the Bands at a Mr. Hot Dog parking lot in Flint.
oh
And
yeah,
and
down
at
inside
the
the
and at the end of the there were two bands standing at the end, and one was the Jazz Masters, which of course became Terry and the Pack and then Grand Funk Railroad. And the Bossman won that contest. And I said, now the lead guitarist is Dick Wagner. And here's the connection with Kiss. When Ace was unavailable to play in the studio, they brought in Dick Wagner to do guitar parts. I said, so you've got a connection between the Flint area um, back in the 60s, and you've now got this connection with Kiss, and they played here in Cadillac. So you actually had a guy who played with Kiss on recordings and eventually was the lead guitarist with Alice Cooper. And he played here in Cadillac. And it was hanging on the wall, and no one knew it.
that's amazing. That's amazing. And that being one of those bits of Kiss trivia that didn't come out until much later. Kiss obviously had good reason for kind of keeping a lid on that and preserving the mystique. Um, I mean, I was a real little kid. I just have very dim memories of this. My mom dated Dick briefly, and he was working on a Mark Farner solo record. The connection that you outlined with the Boss Men, man, that was a great band.
They
That's
became the Frost, later became the Frost. And I'll give you something that's even more obscure. A gentleman here from Cadillac who grew up in Cadillac named Gary Telgenoff. And Gary moved to Las Vegas, but he was a great friend. He went to Alpena Junior College and somehow became a great friend of Dick Wagner. And Gary moved to Las Vegas and became the chief medical examiner for the county. And in fact, the character in the original CSI series was based on Gary, the doc in the morgue, and he was a technical consultant for CSI. And Gary had a band that he called Skinner Rat. And Skinner Rat was just CDs that Gary did all the instruments, except he brought in his old friend Dick Wagner to do all the guitar work. So every time he'd do a CD, Gary would send me one, and it was all Gary except for Dick Wagner.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Now, speaking of arcane recordings like that, um, I'd read that Double Yellow Line's set was recorded. There's a reel to reel still exist of Double Yellow
Yeah,
Line set.
everybody tells me all these films exist, and I have yet to see them. And my question to this is, Kiss claims to have. Bill Coyne said, "Well, we'll have a film crew there." And my question is, if all this film was taken, why have we never seen it? Why hasn't Kiss used it in their own productions? But that aside, my feeling has always been that, and it's come to true in this 50th preparation, that buried in closets and in shoe boxes and in drawers that Grandma and Grandpa have are photos and stories and film that people took, and they don't even know they're there. And now, as kids clean out houses, they find all this stuff, and a lot of that has made its way to the Cadillac museum, and the stuff that's in there right now is absolutely amazing. And in fact, a few weeks ago, I had a chance to sit down with Dale Myers, and Dale Myers was the disc jockey at WATT in Cadillac. He was 19 years old when Kiss came, and he was the guy who played rock and roll from 6 o'clock at night until 11:30. He was the only rock and roll here in Cadillac. And WHET had a station that broadcast maybe about 10 miles. So if you lived outside of Cadillac, you were in trouble. You didn't get any rock and roll.
Right.
So Dale anyway was able to interview the band before they came to Cadillac, and that was a great experience in his life. And he has a couple of pictures that he showed me of himself with the band. So that was kind of fun. So these kinds of stories that, quite frankly, I had never heard before are coming to light now with the 50th, and it's fun to see all that stuff coming out.
Yeah, I do think it's pretty amazing that in 2025 that's still happening. I've been, immersed in this world, virtually all my life. And, once I got into my teens, start going to record shows and KISS conventions, where they're really known as expos. People were having these homegrown events, and you sort of get this false idea that, like, well, it's at a certain point it's all been seen, and no, it's like you said, there's stuff squirreled away that's still being discovered, that people go, oh, I didn't think that mattered, or I didn't think anyone would care about that, or oh, this and that. And it really does kind of boggle the mind that stuff keeps floating to the surface. And that, I think it was the thing I referenced with that double yellow line, was, I think that must have been in that Nothing to Lose book, where one of the roadies one of Kiss's roadies had noticed that somebody in the band had been audio recording. They noticed the reel to reel, and they went to confiscate because they wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be a Kiss bootleg. But man, let me tell you, as somebody that's been collecting Kiss bootlegs for 40 plus years, that's again one of the holy grails. Much as it is to sort of teleport yourself to that gym at that time. I mean, I am extremely envious and extremely grateful that you have sort of carried this torch. Now, you had mentioned some of the memorabilia that I'm really looking forward to seeing. A question that I think a lot of people want to know: the missing plaque, the Cadillac High School honorary KISS plaque. Has that ever been recovered?
No, it hasn't. And uh, people assume that I'm a huge KISS collector, and I live in a very small house, and I don't have a lot of memorabilia. I have my plaque that KISS gave me, and some very personal items, and so I'm not a huge collector. But a gentleman who lives just north of Cadillac named Rich Edwards is a huge 1975-76 KISS collector, and a lot of the things that you'll see in the museum come from Rich's storehouse, and he's got all kinds of cool things like a Peter Criss drumstick that was played at that concert, um, yearbooks, and the story of the plaque was it was hanging on a wall in Cadillac High School, and it said honorary member Cadillac High School, whatever. And about 3 months after the visit, that plaque just disappeared, and it's been gone all this time. A while back, just maybe 10 or 12 years ago, the class of 75 got together and put up another memorial in the hallway where that plaque would have been. So we've got kind of a new version of it, but that original has never been found. And over the years, I've had all kinds of stories about who took it and where it is at this particular moment. But here's the deal: you're a collector, and you know that it's pretty much useless to the collector, because as soon as you put it on eBay or said, here it is, every person like you will know, well, wait a minute, that plaque was stolen. And this,
we will descend upon the thief, and we will return it to its
exactly.
halls.
Here has been my deal for 50 years.
Yeah.
Send us the plaque back, whoever it is that has it.
Yeah.
Send
No, you
incognito, put it outside in the school door or whatever, we're not going to prosecute. We just want it back.
Yeah.
And if it would somehow resurface, we've got a couple weeks to go before the 50th. If somehow that would resurface, that would really be cool.
Oh man, yeah, I'm putting the plea out to my dozens of viewers here that if you know, it goes without saying, if anybody has any tips, uh, sir, madam, if you're out there, do the right thing. The 50th is coming up. That plaque belongs in Cadillac. Now, you mentioned Rich. Will Rich be a part of the festivities? Is he attending?
By the way, he's put together a great display. His niece happens to own the Sweet Shop, which is a candy
Oh,
store that was here in 1975. It's still here. And he's put together a great display at the Sweet Shop. And in fact, we have a uh, Cadillac Rock City ice cream that Moomer's Ice Cream has made especially for our 50th, and it's only available at the Sweet Shop, and it's really good.
I
And
can't wait.
Rich has got a great display there, and then a lot of his collection will be up at the museum. He's loaned it to the museum, and people have come from in town and added things to it. So there's things that have never been seen before. Um, and Rich has just been just phenomenal. We're producing a rockumentary video and putting the finishing touches on that. We've got a world-class videographer here that lives here in Cadillac that goes all over the world doing videos, and he's putting one together for us. And Rich is part of that. So that's going to be shown at Cadillac High School on Saturday and then at the downtown movie theater on Sunday. So KISS fans will be able to see that. It's an hour-long, what we call a rockumentary. Gives the whole history, and you'll get to see a few pieces of memorabilia. And one other thing that I might mention, we've mentioned both of us, all these musicians. You know, we're having the concert at a local place called the Venue Event Center because we wanted to involve as many local businesses as we could. And Mr. Speed is going to play two shows, Saturday night and Sunday night there. And the venue has done a great job of bringing in all kinds of musicians to Cadillac. I mean, it's the first time we've seen lots of really good rock and roll. And one of those gentlemen was John Five from, you'll recognize from, he's a great guitarist, and he's now the lead guitarist for Motley Crue. And John came, and he's a huge KISS collector, and he actually brought a yearbook with him. And I signed the yearbook and got to meet him and watch the sound check and everything. So, you know, it's amazing how many musicians throughout the years have been inspired by KISS. And when they come to Cadillac, one thing that they all want to do is go to the monument and have their photo taken.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually had the privilege to visit John earlier this year and see his collection, and geeked out with him a couple times that he's come to Flint. And I've had a similar privilege with Sebastian Bach from Skid Row. Met him randomly for the first time at the Tiger Stadium show in '96, and it's remarkable to me that we just become these 8-year-old kids or teenagers or whatever age we were when we first got bit by this bug. It's the reason we're having this conversation. It's really remarkable.
It's interesting you mentioned that Tiger Stadium show because Cadillac's football coach right now is Jason Cott, and he's coached before. He grew up in Montrose, north of Flint, and coached at Flint Powers and some places, and moved north and coached at Benzie Central. And this is his first year at Cadillac, and he's a huge KISS fan, and we kind of got a chance to meet for the first time and realized that Coach Cott was at that Tiger Stadium show, and so was I. And in fact, I still have the T-shirt that says KISS Army from that show. And so that gave us an instant connection. And
Yeah,
he's a huge KISS fan. And what you fans are just going to absolutely love when they come to Cadillac for the 50th. Luck Industries has donated special uniforms and helmets for that one game that'll be
Uh,
on the 10th. And our team's going to be decked out in Kiss inspired uniforms, which will be really cool. And the coach is really, really into it. He's a fun guy. And it's just amazing that, like, you and I have a connection and he has a connection. And we were all three of us now at that show.
well, and yeah, let me just, I'm gonna dip into my. Uh, I rarely do this. Open up my pinball machine. I'm gonna show you something that you might recognize. This is my relic from that Tiger Stadium show. You can see
Wow.
who's pick, and
Yes.
this was June 28th, 1996, and something that's really interesting. My favorite part of this, I don't know if you can see, but
Oh,
Paul
yeah.
always saws the neck, so they break. Well, Tiger Stadium was a little different, and it broke at the bolts.
Oh,
And so I mean, if I wanted to, I could fill this neck in. I could actually one of my other collector buddies uh, has the body, and we've sort of tongue in cheek negotiated over the years,
oh,
which one
yeah.
of us is going to end up with the other piece. But yeah, when I can't think about Tiger Stadium without thinking about this, and what an amazing night that was. But yeah, it's just
Let me share one more thing with you. The man who owns Gene Simmons' key, Thad Zilka, he was here for the 40th. He'll be here for the 50th along with that key. And I don't know if you can see this, but he's created a book
oh wow.
called Unmask My 50 Years with Kiss. And in this book there are 4 chapters about Cadillac, but there are also set lists for concerts and all kinds of places where he's been with them, and a whole section about all the various guitars that the band has used. So, and he's going to do a book signing here in Cadillac for the 50th on that Saturday, the 11th, and it's a really, really good book, and I encourage fans that it's right next door to the sweet shop, so you can eat ice
Ah,
cream and do the book signing all in one big swoop.
nice. And what's that gentleman's name once again?
Thad Zilka. It's
Yeah,
it's
okay. That's because that's one of the events that I don't believe was on the itinerary. If so, I might I
well,
might
it's just been put on, but this is a picture of the book.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're already looking forward to that book signing now. That's boy,
So we're
so
adding
many,
things
so
all the
many things.
time. Yeah.
So many things, and there's local restaurants. I've heard rumor of Kiss nachos. I mean, there's
There's
menu
a
items. The
there's a
ice
kiss
cream
kiss
on the
burrito of all things, a
Kiss
kiss
burrito.
burrito. There's rock and roll all night. Light and party every day IPA at the brewery, local Clam Lake Brewery. There's um, special coffee, special popcorn, all kinds of things up and down Main Street in Cadillac.
So much going on. Please, everybody, if you're not already signed up on the mailing list, uh, what is it? KissCadillac.com.
KissCadillac.com. And then I have a website also, as you know, which is neffcadillackiss.com. But if you go to kisscadillac.com, all the information is there.
All right. Well, maybe that's gonna give us an out to wrap this episode of Hey Man, Nice Kiss Shirt. I can't thank you enough, Jim Neff, for everything you've done for Kiss and for the fan community. You are a legend to us, and I look forward to shaking your hand in about a week or so.
Yeah, it's going to be
And,
great fun, and I look forward to it too. It's going to be so many Kiss fans coming from all over the world. It's going to be great. And you
and
know
and
what?
you can attest from the 40th. I mean, this is gonna be like the 40th on steroids. And I remember leaving Cadillac just floating on a cloud. It's so much joy, and man, it's gonna be amazing. So
Going to be
I
great.
I've got people coming from Oh boy, they're all over. Like you said, I mean, you've mentioned fans that have come from Singapore.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a huge international contingent. The Kiss Army always shows up when it's time to pay tribute to the thing that we love.
But you know something, I'll just leave you with one thing. I've told the story and I tell this to people. I've told the story 10,000 times. But for the person that I'm telling the story to, it's their first time. So that's what makes it important. Well,
So
we hope that everyone has fun and plan to come that weekend and smile a lot.
I already can't wipe it off my face, Jim. Thanks again.
My pleasure, and we'll see you in a week.
Cheers. All right, there we go, sir.
Really
Much
good.
fantastic.
Hey, man, nice Kiss shirt.
It's the red.
Yeah.